In this video, I'm going to tell the story of the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, his first marriage. And it's a lovely story, and I'm going to be reading from Muhammad, his life based on the earliest sources, by Martin Lings. Chapter 12, Questions of Marriage. Muhammad had now passed his 20th year, and as time went on, he received more and more invitations to join one or another of his kinsmen on their travels abroad. Finally, the day came when he was asked to take charge of the goods of a merchant who was unable to travel himself, and his success in this capacity led to other similar engagements. He was thus able to earn a better livelihood, and marriage became a possibility. His uncle and guardian, Abu Talib, had at that time 3 sons. The eldest, Talib, was about the same age as Muhammad himself. Akil was 13 or 14, and Jafar was a boy of 4. Muhammad was fond of children and liked to play with them, and he grew especially attached to Jafar, who was a beautiful and intelligent child, and who responded to his cousin's love with a devotion that proved to be lasting. Abu Talib also had daughters, and one of these was already of marriageable age. Her name was Fakita, but later she was called Hani, and it is by that name that she is always known. A great affection had grown up between her and Muhammad, who now asked his uncle to let him marry her. But Abu Talib had other plans for his daughter. His cousin, Hubayra, the son of his mother's brother of the clan of Maksum, had likewise asked for the hand of Hani. And Hubayra was not only a man of some substance, but he was also, like Abu Talib himself, a gifted poet. Moreover, the power of Maksum in Mecca was as much on the increase as that of Hashim was on the wane. And it was to Hubayra that Abu Talib married Hani. While his nephew mildly reproached him, he simply replied, "They have given us their daughters in marriage," no doubt referring to his own mother. And a generous man must requite generosity. The answer was unconvincing, inasmuch as Abd al-Muttalib had already more than repaid the debt in question by marrying 2 of his daughters, Atika and Bara, to men of Maksum. Muhammad no doubt took his uncle's words as a courteous and kindly substitute for telling him plainly that he was not yet in a position to marry. That, at any rate, is what he now decided for himself. But unexpected circumstances were soon to induce him to change his mind. One of the richer merchants of Mecca was a woman, Khadija, daughter of Khuwailid of the clan of Asad. She was first cousin to Waraka, the Christian, and his sister Qutayla, and like them, she was a distant cousin to the sons of Hashim. She had already been married twice, and since the death of her second husband, it had been her custom to hire men to trade on her behalf. Now, Muhammad had come to be known throughout Mecca as Al-Amin, the reliable, the trustworthy, the honest, and this was initially owing to the reports of those who had entrusted their merchandise to him on various occasions. Khadija had also heard much good of him from family sources, and one day she sent word to him asking him to take some of her merchandise to Syria. His fee would be the double of the highest she had ever paid to a man of Quraysh, and she offered him for the journey the services of a lad of hers named Maysara. He accepted what she proposed, and accompanied by the lad, he set off with her goods for the north. When they reached Bostra in the south of Syria, Muhammad took shelter beneath the shadow of a tree not far from the cell of a monk named Nestor. Since travellers' halts often remained unchanged, it could have been the selfsame tree under which he had sheltered some 15 years previously on his way through Bostra with his uncle. Perhaps Bahira had died and been replaced by Nosta. However that may be, for we only know what Maysara reported, the monk came out of his cell and asked the lad, "Who is the man beneath that tree?" "He is a man of Quraysh," said Maysara, adding by way of explanation, "of the people who have guardianship of the sanctuary." "None other than a prophet is sitting beneath that tree," said Nestor. And Martin Lings in his biography here has a little footnote at the bottom which is really worth reading out. He says, "According to Islamic tradition, Muhammad is none other than the mysterious Shiloh, to whom would be transferred in the latter days the spiritual authority which until then had remained the prerogative of the Jews, Jesus himself having been the last prophet of the line of Judah. The prophecy in question was made by Jacob immediately before his death." And Martin Lings then quotes from Genesis chapter 49, and I quote, "And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from beneath his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be." Genesis chapter 49. Fascinating prophecy. And then Martin Lings continues, "As they went on further into Syria, the words of Nestor sank deep into the soul of Maysara, but they did not greatly surprise him, for he had become aware throughout the journey that he was in the company of a man unlike any other he had ever met. This was still further confirmed by something he saw on his way home. He had often noticed that the heat was strangely unoppressive. And one day towards noon, in other words, the hottest part of the day, it was given to him to have a brief but clear vision of two angels shading Muhammad from the sun's rays. Wow. On reaching Mecca, they went to Khadija's house with the goods they had bought in the markets of Syria for the price of what they had sold. Khadija sat listening to Muhammad as he described the journey and told her of the transactions he had made. These proved to be very profitable, for she was able to sell her newly acquired assets for almost the double of what had been paid for them. Such considerations were far from her thoughts, for all her attention was concentrated on the speaker himself. Muhammad was 25 years old. He was of medium stature, inclined to slimness, with a large head, broad shoulders, and the rest of his body perfectly proportioned. His hair and beard were thick and black, not altogether straight, but slightly curled. His hair reached midway between the lobes of his ears and his shoulders, and his beard was of a length to match. He had a noble breadth of forehead, and the ovals of his large eyes were wide, with exceptionally long lashes and extensive brows, slightly arched but not joined. In most of the earliest descriptions, his eyes are said to have been black, but according to one or two of these, they were brown, even light brown. His nose was aquiline, and his mouth was wide and finely shaped. a comeliness always visible, for although he let his beard grow, he never allowed the hair of his moustache to protrude over his upper lip. His skin was white, but tanned by the sun. In addition to his natural beauty, there was a light on his face, the same which had shone from his father, but in the sun it was more powerful. And this light was especially apparent on his broad forehead and in his eyes, which were remarkably luminous. Khadijah knew that she herself was still beautiful, but she was 15 years his elder. Would he nonetheless be prepared to marry her? As soon as he was gone, she consulted a woman friend of hers named Nufeshah, who offered to approach him on her behalf and, if possible, to arrange a marriage between them. Maysara now came to his mistress and told her about the two angels and what the monk had said, whereupon she went to her cousin Waraka, obviously he's a Christian, and repeated these things to him. If this be true, Khadijah, he said, then is Muhammad the prophet of our people. Long have I known that a prophet is to be expected, and his time hath now come. Meanwhile, Nufeshah came to Muhammad and asked him why he did not marry. I have not the means to marry, he answered. But if thou wert given the means, she said, and if thou wert bidden to an alliance where there is beauty and property and nobility and abundance, wouldst thou not consent? Who is she? He said. Khadijah, said Nufeshah. And how could such a marriage be mine? He said. Leave that to me, was her answer. For my part, he said, I am willing. Nufeshah returned with these tidings to Khadijah, who then sent word to Muhammad, asking him to come to her. And when he came, she said to him, Son of mine uncle, I love thee for thy kinship with me, and for that thou art ever in the centre, not being partisan among the people for this or for that. And I love thee for thy trustworthiness, and for the beauty of thy character, and for the truth of thy speech. Then she offered herself in marriage to him, and they agreed that he should speak to his uncles, and she would speak to her uncle, Ammar, the son of Asad. For Khuwaylid, her father, had died. It was Hamza, despite his relative youth, whom the Hashemites delegated to represent them on this occasion, no doubt because he was the most closely connected of them with the tribe of Asad, for his full sister Safiya had recently married Khadijah's brother Awam. So Hamza went with his nephew to Ammar and asked for the hand of Khadijah. And it was agreed between them that Muhammad should give her 20 she-camels as dowry. And there ends that chapter, a beautiful story in the life of the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace. Till next time.